On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina. All right, everybody, before we get into the episode, I'm going to play a quick message from our sponsor for this interview.
Give your joints and muscles the nutrition they need to stay healthy and rebuild faster with OsteoSyn, formulated with Opti MSM. It's the gold standard for purity and efficacy with MSM and chondroitin. MSM is a bioavailable source of sulfur, which boosts collagen production in cartilage and connective tissue, helping active joints stay supple. After strenuous training, Opti MSM boosts your body's natural antioxidant system to jumpstart muscle recovery. Don't wait to give your body what it needs to achieve. Choose the unsurpassed quality and science-backed efficacy of OsteoSyn with Opti MSM.
I totally agree with you. So when I left baseball, I work at a facility now that has any sport you can imagine: football, baseball, basketball, tennis, soccer. We've had bull riders in, you know what I mean? And it's like, I know how to program for baseball and coach baseball. And then I come here and it's like, all right, we have to do speed work. We have to do agility work. We have to do conditioning stuff on the field. And it's like, not in the context of baseball. Like, you need to do it in the context of these other sports that run much more, or they're on their feet much more, or like, so that I would agree with you is a huge eye opener when you leave baseball. But again, like you said, I'm sure it has helped you getting back into baseball to have those additional tools in your tool belt. And I love that you said you reached out to others, you reached out to some mentors and some people to kind of pick their brains on that. I think that's the best way to do it. Like, going in, trying to research the sport as best as you can, trying to ask as many questions of other people as you can, and just putting your best foot forward and just accepting that you're probably going to be wrong. You're probably going to make mistakes. But you always have the athlete's best interest at heart, I think goes a long way. The other thing is, when I was a GA, I had women's soccer. And that was the first time I had worked with women as well. And to be honest, that was arguably the best team I've ever worked with. Like, they were just awesome to work with. Like, anything I threw at them, they're like 110% at it, like all in it as a team. And then, you get around some of the guys in baseball and they're like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm like, bro, come on, like, just do it. Just do it. I'm telling you, if you do this, it will help you. So, yeah, I have a couple people in my circle that I talk to quite a bit, and we all say the same thing. Like, women's soccer players are a lot of fun to work with because they just commit to it and they go really hard at the training, and they really buy into what you say. So I'm glad you had a really positive experience, or at least it seems like it. And I would imagine that you took things from the college setting that are now helping you back in professional baseball, correct?
Yeah, 100%. I think, any experience that you have, like, should definitely push you forward to the next sense, in the next spot you're in. But yeah, it definitely helped working with girls. It made me appreciate, the setting that I'm in now. But I do miss working with the chicks a few times.
Yeah, sometimes the guys can be a little too much
Yeah.
for everybody. But yeah, the biggest thing here for me is just, obviously you were in baseball, you left, you came back to baseball. Like, do you ever feel the itch to go back to college now, or do you feel comfortable in the baseball setting and it's kind of something you want to pursue, or are you just open to, like, all right, I just like gaining experiences?
No, I think this year has really solidified that I want to be in pro ball, specifically like in the org. I really feel like I really lucked out with the org that I'm in. I'm so grateful for the Rays. I feel like this experience and the people who I work with every day, like, there's no ego. People are hyping each other up. Like, we're constantly calling each other, talking about programming and, when guys go up and down, like we're having conversations. So it's just a lot of fun to work here. And I don't see myself leaving and, hopefully not. But yeah, I think pro ball is kind of where I want to be for the next at least 5 years, and then kind of revisit and see where I'm at.
Yeah, that's like I said, I started with the Pirates org. I was in Bristol, Tennessee, which if you don't know where that is, like there's a reason you don't know where it is, right? Like I was in the Appy League. It's a lot of like small cities and kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's like true minor league grinders. And I really struggled with it that year. I was away from at the time, my girlfriend, who's not my wife, for the first time, and like trying to be a professional. And it didn't seem like it was for me. And I was like, all right, let me try something else. And I went to the private setting. And then when I was in the private setting, I was like, I might have missed something in pro ball. I should give it one more chance. And I ended up latching on with the Red Sox and, spent 8 years there and had some of the best days of my life in that organization. So I can definitely relate to your story. And sometimes you just kind of have to experience something for yourself and kind of figure it out. And by process of elimination, be like, all right, I did enjoy the college setting. I learned a lot, but pro ball's kind of calling me back. And then, you saying that you want to be there at least 5 years, like you're probably crazy enough to be there if that's what you want to say. You know what I mean? That's how I was when I was in it. It's like, there are people here that are here for lifers, and we're all kind of a little bit off with each other, but in the best possible way. At my job now, like I explained the hours and the schedule and the amount of games, and they're like, no, I couldn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, see, we're a little bit different in this. So as long as and there's no surprises and you're cool with it, I think you'll be totally fine.
Yeah, I think it helps. I don't have many attachments right now, like other than my family. I just have my dog, so it makes things a lot easier, and it makes me spending 11 hours at the field. It makes it a lot more enjoyable, and I love my job. So, yeah, I don't really see myself leaving, but that's probably a little crazy of me, but it's all right. It's where we're at.
Most important question of the interview: what kind of dog is it?
She's an English Red Lab.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Does she travel with you too during the season, or does she stay with your family?
When I was in St. Louis, she was, because at the complex, the hours are a little different, I think, than being on the road. But this past year, she stayed at home with my family. But in the league we're in Bowling Green is you go to North Carolina a lot, so I got to see her quite a bit, which was good. But I think maybe next year we'll try and make it work. But yeah, we just went on a 2-week road trip, so I was able to spend some time with her then.
That's awesome. Yeah. My first year in Boston, my wife and I moved out there, and we were in like this loft apartment, like very high ceilings, old industrial building. And we were there for like 2 days, and we went to grab dinner, and we left the dog at the apartment, thinking like when we were living in Phoenix before, we could leave the dog. She was chill. And we took the elevator up after we grabbed dinner, and our condo was the last one in the hallway, and we could just hear howling. And I was like, no. And I like sprint down the hallway. I open the door, and she's like sitting on top of the couch, like full on, like neck bent, just, oh. And we were like, no, stop. I'm telling you, we were there like a week at this time. The next day, got a notice from the landlords like, hey, you can't have your dog here. So my first year in the big leagues, our dog had to live with my parents. And it was just, honestly, it was so devastating for her to not be there. We don't always appreciate our animals enough, but especially we don't have kids. So like the animals for us are, everything to us. So when she had to leave, we were like, oh, we're so sad. The next year, we're like, we're out of this condo. If we can't have the dog, we're going to find somewhere else to live. And, that's how it is. Like your whole life revolves around the dog and making sure they're comfortable and happy. So hopefully she can be with you next year.
Appreciate it, yes.
So is there anything else that we didn't hit on, getting back on track here, but like talking college versus professional baseball? Any other notes that you might have? Maybe somebody listening is kind of stuck between the two. I don't know, anything?
We didn't really talk about like the baseball setting, but I feel like it is pretty similar. Like nowadays, like the guys, especially with like the medical red shirt and other red shirts and whatnot, like those guys are pretty similar in age that I worked with this past year. But I think for people who are maybe like on the edge about whether they want to go like in the professional setting or college setting, it's just kind of like what you want. You definitely work. I mean, I worked probably pretty similar hours having 4 sports, but I would imagine it's pretty similar hours, but it's just very different. Like you work with one team, you probably have a lot more equipment, and access to like nutrition. You work only with one set of, field coaches probably, but you also have access to like the dietitian, the mental performance. Like again, it's all dependent on like what kind of college you're at, like the D3, D2s, and even like the mid majors can be very different than like the SECs, ACC, Big Ten schools, So it just kind of depends on what you want. But I think you should definitely experience both of them. Like for me, like I'm obviously really glad that I experienced, and went and worked in the college setting. It makes me appreciate, being where I'm at a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that is actually a good point of just like very similar ages between those two groups. And that kind of just sparked like for me, like programming wise and kind of looking at, the two groups, like maybe like college baseball to professional baseball specifically, not like excluding soccer for this one. Like programming wise, did you find that there was similarities between the two in terms of like, injury, wear and tear, like areas to look at? Because obviously in college, you're not playing anywhere near the amount of games as professional.
Yeah.
So are you like able to develop a little bit more in college versus pro, or are you kind of still similar program design, let's say specifically in season, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think in season it also depends on like the org that you're with. I feel like each org, obviously has a different like foundation what they believe in. Um, it was tough in college because you're not with them every day. Like they also like travel, and I didn't travel with them because I had, 3 other sports. But we lifted 3 times a week. We did like a strength day, a power day, and then we did like a CNS like primer day, which I feel like is pretty similar to how it was at least with starters, with the Rays. But with the Rays, we do a lot more microdosing because we all wanted like the more exposure to them, and it's easier to on the road if you just have like a 20-minute lift or a 30-minute lift, and you're doing that like 3 or 4 times a week, or even 5 times a week, and I think a lot of guys really like that because especially for relievers, they're hot almost every day or every other day. So we did a lot of shorter lifts just to help, expose their muscles to load and just continue to prime them throughout the year. I did not do that when I was in the college setting, when I only had them 3 times a week. I mean, it's also like a lot of, politics too, is when can they get into the gym? When is their time in the schedule to have them come in? Which is a whole beast in itself. Like that, the scheduling and the programming were really difficult in college because if a guy had a class at a certain time, we had to work around that, and that was a lot to deal with for sure. And I'm sure it's hard for them too. But um, yeah, we did a lot more microdosing now in pro ball than I did the um, in the college setting. But if I were to go back now, I'd probably try and implement more of that. But I just don't think it would be plausible with the time that we had with the guys.
Yeah, that is a good point, right? In professional baseball, you're literally together basically every waking moment of your life for 8 months or whatever, you know what I mean? So I can definitely understand that. With your position, do you have freedom of programming? Do you guys kind of have an overarching theme that you're looking for week to week, month to month, year to year, whatever it is? Or it's kind of you're fully trusted with the program. When people move up or down, like you give them to the next person, they have their own program. Like, how does that work for you?
No, I'd say we definitely have a pretty like overarching plan. Like we definitely all have like a conversation, like coming out of spring training, like we're all on the same page. And throughout the year, like I said, we're really good about communicating when a guy moves up and down. Like if he's doing like this kind of workout, then or he's been targeting a lot of, um, like a trap bar deadlift and unilateral on one day, like we'll keep them on the same page. I feel like too, as guys get later in the year, if they already have like it kind of depends on when they get moved up. If they get moved up early in the year, I feel like they'll probably modify things based on what I'm doing with the guys versus like later in the year, they're probably going to stick with what they've been doing with the other strength coach, like below or above me. Um, but I would say it's all very similar. Like like with the Rays, I feel like everyone does a good job and everything's on, the same spot. So you can see everything of what everyone's, programming. It's like when the guy moves up, I always make a phone call and then we talk about it. And then I'll look back at what he's been doing, you know, and then I'll just kind of modify it based on how he's moving now, or, you know, what the pitching coach sees or the hitting coach sees when he comes in, you know, and what they're trying to work on. So I would say it's all very, very similar, and like we're all over communicating, which I think is the biggest thing you need to do when a guy moves up or down. But yeah, it's all pretty similar.
Sure, for sure. Transitioning just a touch, what do you believe makes a strength and conditioning coach successful? Either in the pro setting, the college setting, as a general like consensus, like what does success look like to you?
The biggest thing that I've tried to be good at, I think in every setting, but for sure this year, I think it's just very different being with the guys like 24/7, is just being consistent every day with the energy that I bring. Um, you know, they have to deal with a lot of inconsistencies, whether that be like, you know, playing in the games, if they're doing well, if they're not doing well, like it's a lot of uncertainty. So like they come in the gym and I'm, you know, bringing the same crazy energy every day, then like they can expect that. And that's what I really strive for this year, is like just being consistent with that. I don't want them to coming in and being like, you know, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you, you know, sad today? So I feel like that was the biggest thing and piece of advice I'd give to somebody, is just be the same every day and don't be off with your energy, you know, be very, very positive, and just be consistent with that.
Very, very much easier said than done. Obviously, we are human as well, and I think sometimes we try not to be, for the sake of, you know, putting others before ourselves. It's a service industry. That's what we're doing. We're there to serve the players. So there are days where maybe not for you, hopefully, but like for me, there'd be days I wake up and I'm just like, today's not the day. Like, it's just not a good day. I'm just grinding. But the second you get on the bus, or you get to the clubhouse or whatever, like you got to put that mask on, that wall up, whatever you got to do to get ready. And you have to be consistent. I agree with you 1,000%. Because they know, right? Like the second you come in and you're off a little bit, they're like, what's going on with you today? Like, what you got going on? Something's wrong here. Something's different. And you're like, fuck, he got me. Like he knows, like, all right, my bad, dude. I'm back. I'm locked in. So they'll definitely hold you accountable to it. It's not always fair that we get held to that standard and other people don't, but life is not always fair either. So I agree with you. It is easier said than done to do that. But I think if you can be a consistent presence for them, they will gravitate to you a little bit more. And I think you can get a little bit more out of them when they're a little bit off their game. You know, sometimes they get really high with the energy. Sometimes they get really low. A lot of times it's dependent on how they're playing over the course of a couple of days or a week or whatever. But I agree with you. I think if you can be consistent for them and give them a shoulder to lean on when they're upset, and be someone that can, you know, be cheerful and happy with them when they're happy, like, I think it goes a long way. I would agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and I think like going off that too is like the trust that you have with your athletes is huge, because if you don't have trust with them and they don't believe anything that you say, like they're not going to do your program, you know. They're not going to want to do it. Like you said earlier, there's going to be a lot of pushback if you don't connect with them as a person. And I feel like that's a pretty standard answer to say. Like everyone's, you know, always like build a relationship with the athletes, you know, but you got to actually do that. You have to actually care about them as a person, or at least buy in, you know, on what they're saying. And especially for me too, like I'm with those guys all the time. So you learn a lot about them, learn about a lot about you, you know. So it's just kind of how it is. But that's the biggest thing. You're not going to get along with everybody, but if you can, you know, treat them respectfully and be a human with them, then, you know, you're gonna go really far, and they're gonna want to do your program. Or, you know, if you have guys who are coming in wanting to do, you know, their off-season guys, you know, program, but, you know, you build a relationship with them and you're slowly picking away at, you know, hey, I saw this out in the field, how you're moving based on like what the hitting coach or pitching coach said, like maybe we try to implement this in the gym. I think that's kind of where you know, get farther with that athlete, you know.
Yeah, the easy thing to do is to talk about it, right? I think that's why you said it's like almost a cliche answer, right? Of like building trust, communication, relationships, whatever it is. But the hard thing is actually doing that, and doing it every day and being consistent. And, you know, like you said, you're not going to get along with everybody. You can't. It's physically impossible to get along with everybody, either in your clubhouse or in your org or whatever. But you have to work really hard to earn their trust. And so going back to what I was saying earlier is like, I work private setting, I go to the Red Sox. I'm like, all right, I'm back in pro ball. We're doing it. I'm in AA. I'm 23 years old. And the first series we have, a player is fighting with me in the club, in the dugout mid game. And I'm like, I made a mistake. Like, I came back to baseball and I should have learned. I should not have come back. And, this player and I are like going at it, verbally, we're yelling at each other about a disagreement, whatever. And by the end of the season, he and I were the closest of anybody on the team. Like, he would have done anything for me. And it was just, I had to chip away at him. He was 28 years old in AA. I was 23. He felt disrespected by me. And I had to spend a lot of time like really showing him that I cared and just being my genuine self. And like, all right, listen, I know you don't like me, like you disagree with me, whatever, but like, I'm doing this to help you. I'm doing this to help you. I'm doing this to help you. And, little by little, it took some time, but we ended up getting really close by the end. But it took genuine effort and work on my part. It wasn't just, all right, dude, we're going to be friends, we're going to be boys, and then that was it. And like, he just trusted me right away. Like, he
Yeah.
really, he knew I was young. He knew that I had no idea what I was doing. And in return, I showed him, okay, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. I need your help. And also, I am here to help you, period. There's no other reason that I'm here other than to help you. And once he realized that and he opened up to it, anything I asked, he would have done. And again, it was all it's just hard work. People are not easy. You know what I mean? It's not a magic book that says do this and you're better. Like, it's in the trenches. It's a lot of hard work. And we spend every single minute together of every day. You are not always going to get along with everybody every minute of every day, but sometimes you have to take the high road and be the consistent person and let them vent to you. And it's not always easy, which probably gets into a whole nother conversation of like taking care of yourself away from the field, but maybe for another day. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work. People are hard work. It's a people industry though. And, if you're not willing to do that, it's probably not the right setting for you, at least in my mind.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you hit on is like not having an ego. I think with the guys too, like just admitting that not everyone knows what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing half the time, but like I really care about them and I'm gonna do everything I can to help them and research everything I can and communicate with everybody that I can. Like, but I'm gonna be honest with them about, what I'm comfortable with. And it's not about trying to know everything. I think that people really lose relationships when the ego gets the best of you. When you think that you know everything and you're just trying to one up people, like I'm not a fan of it. I'm never going to be like that. And if I am, I hope people call me out on it.
Kind of going along those lines, do you have any other advice for other coaches, either young coaches looking to get in or coaches in college that want to come to baseball or older coaches listening that just want to stay on top of things? Like, any other advice?
Yeah, kind of like I said earlier, is just always ask for feedback, whether it be positive or negative. Like the only way you're going to get better is by asking people, you know, for their opinion on how you coach on the floor, how your, programming is. Work your ass off. Definitely work as many hours as you need to. I feel like it's cliche that people always say, be the first one there and last one to leave. But like when you're starting out, like it really should be like that. I mean, obviously don't just stay there to stay there. Like, do work and communicate with people and connect with people. And like I said, be positive. Not every day is going to be great, but you should just really appreciate like where your feet are. Like every day I try and really just be really appreciative of, the people I get to work with and athletes get to work with and, the experience I get to have, because it's a really, really cool job that we have. So those are probably my biggest three.
Yeah, really well said. Continuing education resources. So any books that you'd recommend to read, any seminars that you recommend attending, any podcasts you're listening to, just where are you going to stay on top of things and to stay sharp? I'm
really bad about reading books. I feel like I get really bored. My ADHD goes crazy when I try and read. So I'm not big on that, but I will listen to some podcasts. And the Pacey Performance podcast has been really good for me. I feel like they've got a lot of really good stuff. If I do read though, like I'll read some journals, and the Bald has a lot of good stuff. I look at a lot of stuff by Alex Matera on hamstring stuff, and then Keith Barr on his tendon studies. I feel like those two have really have been good for me I've been really reading a lot about those two recently. And then the other podcast was the Just Fly performance. But other than that, I'm not huge on the book reading. You definitely need to be better about that.
Audiobooks?
Yeah, I could do that. Yes. Yeah. That's good.
See, I can't do audiobooks. I need like a physical book in my hand. I write notes in all my books and everything. So I'm
Okay,
like,
good.
I will like read a page and like drift off and write notes. So I lose track too. But I guess it's semi-productive. But yeah, I haven't gotten into audiobooks. But okay. Lightning round, 4 questions, long or short of answers, and then I promise I'll get you out of here. Cool with that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Who is your biggest influence in the field of strength and conditioning?
Throughout my entire years of coaching, it's probably been either Brandon Spickler or Ryan Fair. Brandon Spickler, he was my high school strength coach. I talked to him about a lot of, my moves that I make professionally and all my programming. And then Ryan Fair, he was my my boss when I was with Cleveland. He's my mentor there, and I talked to him like we're very close. We talk about a lot of things, but this past year it's been everyone I work with the Rays. I feel like that's a lot of different people, but I don't try and solidify myself to one person. I like to talk to a bunch of people because everyone has different viewpoints. But I could call literally anybody in the Oregon, from the complex to the big leagues, and they'd all be there for me and help me. So it's, yeah, like I said, it's a good spot to be in.
If you only had one piece of equipment to train with, what would it be?
Kettlebell, very very easy.
What is your biggest accomplishment professionally and or personally?
Professionally, probably getting a master's degree and working at the same time, and then personally, it's probably been running my half marathon this year with my labrum torn.
Any career other than strength and conditioning, what would you choose?
Definitely something outside, other than, not that I'm not outside right now, but it's something with animals, so like ranching or something in the parks.
Grace, it's been really good to get to know you. I appreciate your time. If the listeners want to get in touch with you, where can we get more? Social media a good place, or is there somewhere better?
Yeah, probably social media. My email's on there too if they want to email me. I think my Instagram is Coach Grace Cullen.
Awesome. Well, enjoy whatever time you get in the off season before camps begin. And if you ever need anything from me, give me a shout. It's been nice to get to know you, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, that's going to conclude part 2 of this 2-part interview with Grace. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you missed part 1, I would recommend going back and checking that one out as well. But between the 2 parts, I think there's a lot of really good information, especially in regard to the comparison of working in the college setting versus in the professional baseball setting. 3 things that I took from Grace in this part of the episode. Every new experience presents learning opportunities that can be applied in future settings. Try to be consistent with who you are and the energy you bring on a daily basis. And humility, effective communication, and openness to feedback will help you make progress in your career. One more time, I'd like to give a shout out, a big thank you to our sponsor for the episode and to Grace for her time for the episode. And with that being said, I'll talk to you again on the next one.